Universal did that with Harry Potter.
Yeah,
if you're a
World.
Potterite, a potterer, a
Pothead.
Harryite, what?
Pothead.
Pot,
Is that not what they're called?
Potterheads.
Oh,
They're
Potterhead. Okay. Muppets. I never realized Muppets make sense with
Pigs
Star
in
Wars.
space.
Oh, that's the re-theme for
The crossover.
That's what I want that hotel experience to be.
Pigs in Space Hotel. I would go to that. I waited exactly 4.5 minutes to get on Smuggler's Run, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
You smuggled yourself in there.
I did.
Yeah, it's a chain cantina.
It's a chain. It's the
Franchisee.
Applebee's of Star Wars. Why is that not on the poster for batuu, right? The Applebee's of Star Wars. My heart is breaking.
Well, think of the future joy that I will be able to experience.
It will be too late.
It'll be too late.
Bye-bye. That was a terrible Mickey Mouse. That was supposed to be Mickey.
Was it?
That
I thought it was
Mickey.
Goofy.
I think that was...
Oh.
Do you wanna say the first person's name? Whatever you want to say.
I feel like I'm going to panic and not know what to say.
We're recording right now. I'm going to share this. This is going to be the
perfect.
intro right
I'll
here.
over. Should I just call myself Grim Grinning Nick? Is that weird?
I don't think that's weird.
Okay.
I like it.
That's fun.
Because then, I'm jolly and you're grim.
The Adventures of Grim and Jolly.
I love it. All right, let's officially start now. None of this will be in the video at all.
Oh. All right, well, welcome to the next part of our discussion of Jolly Julian and Grim Grinning's Nick trip to Disney World. We both went on a recent vacation, and we're going to continue that talk. Hopefully you've joined us and listened to our rather lengthy discussion of the most magical kingdom on Earth.
That's right.
Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Today we're going to focus on Hollywood Studios. Hooray for Hollywood. And we're going to kind of compare our notes. I went back in December with a group of 12, and Jolly Julian went with a smaller group, a group of just adults. So we are going to compare notes.
We are. I'm excited, too, because we're talking Disney Hollywood Studios, which happens to be, I think, my favorite park. It is really hard to narrow it down, but I think this is the one I enjoy the most because it combines Walt Disney and it combines movies. And those are two of my favorite things in the entire world. Disney Hollywood Studios just has tons of that. So for a little background again, Nick went with his gigantic family of 12. I went with my slightly smaller and older family of 4 people, including my parents and my sister. We went and just had an adults-only trip, which is what we do because neither my sister nor I have children of our own. So we are the children. I just never have grown up. That's why I figured, I probably shouldn't have children. It'd be kind of just chaos, There'd be no leader. There's no adult in the room if I were to have children.
Cookies. I gotta get cookies.
You do not need cookies.
But we enjoy Disney very much, and we enjoy it in slightly different ways, which is what this podcast is all about. This channel, this experience.
Yeah.
It's all about our experiences, how they differ, how they're alike. And let's start with that. So Disney, we can start right with this. Disney Hollywood Studios, I've already said, is kind of my favorite park. I get the impression it's not necessarily your favorite. You don't dislike it, but it's not your favorite?
It's always hard to pick a favorite, but I do feel more nostalgia and connection to both EPCOT and Magic Kingdom. I think I have to say EPCOT's my favorite park, even though there's so much I love in Magic Kingdom to do. But I think EPCOT and that feel and that original EPCOT and edutainment and that's kind of gonna win me over all the time. I love Hollywood Studios though, and I love Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom's kind of close to I work in education at a zoo, so
yeah.
I love Animal Kingdom. I love kind of comparing notes, but sometimes I have my work brain on, what are they doing? Oh, that's great. Disney actually does a lot for conservation, so we love partnering that with them whenever we can.
That's fantastic.
But Hollywood Studios is It's high on the list of 4.
It's beautiful when there's no bad park. I mean,
Yes,
they're all
that's-
great. It's just levels of how much you love them. It's not like, if I never did that park again, I'd be fine. And each one is so different.
Yes.
You go to the Magic Kingdom, it is a completely different experience than Epcot. It's a different experience from Animal Kingdom. There's a different experience. And that's what I love so much about going there is you're never bored. At least I'm not. I don't know. I know so few people that are like, I went to Disney World and I was bored. Yeah. Those people do exist. Yeah. They're a little weird, but they exist.
Quirky.
They're quirky.
I think one of the reasons it's not, I think it's that different in dynamic. I have small kids that can't go on Rock and Roller Coaster. They can go on Tower of Terror. They've both the younger of the the older of the two older of the 3 went on Tower of Terror last time, but there was still that should they it's hard to explain what it's going to be. They fortunately loved it, spoiler. So,
nice, good.
So I think that Magic Kingdom and Epcot both, it's a lot easier for everyone to go on almost every single thing in both of those parks, which is kind of Disney at its core, that family, whereas I think Hollywood Studios is kind of the action to the answer to, we need a thrill park with thrill rides. And it's still growing too, so that's. I hope it's growing. I know
it expands and contracts.
That's true.
This park, almost more than any other park, I feel like is eating itself. And it bothers me. And we've talked about this before, but taking out the Great Movie Ride, which is one of my favorite attractions of all time, and replacing it with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is a fine ride. It's okay. It's fine. I think they could have built that ride. Did not need to be in Grauman's Chinese Theater.
I would agree with that.
They could have put that in any building. They could have added another building back by Toy Story Land. It would have probably fit very well in that neck of the woods. And left the Great Movie Ride there. I know there's a lot of reasons why the Great Movie Ride might have been retired, and I get it. Rights issues, it's expensive, it's a big space, I get it. But I still, losing the lights, camera, action stunt show in order to put in Galaxy's Edge back there. Losing the backlot tour, which never really worked because they weren't really a full-fledged studio. I don't think they ever really intended to be, but they thought they could do just enough to make it interesting for people to do tours, and then they just realized there's just not really. Although I loved it every time, going through there and seeing the costumes. Yeah. You got to do that,
I got
right?
to do it. I barely remember it, though, and I think that's where... that's where the nostalgia doesn't.
The nostalgia
hit,
kicks in.
It's not high for me, but I think maybe in the back of Eisner's head it was eventually going to be.
Maybe.
I think
he had higher aspirations for it than it reached.
Yeah, you can only film so many episodes of Golden Girls there, I think.
And they didn't even film the episode. They just filmed the outside of the house.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So I have a very nostalgic, I have a nostalgic connection to Disney Hollywood Studios just because of my love for movies. I'm a movie buff. I'm a movie maker. I'm a screenwriter. I'm a director. And any place that makes me feel like I'm in old Hollywood, it just makes me very happy, because I'm not old enough to have ever experienced old Hollywood, classic Hollywood from the 1930s and 40s and 50s. And that's really what Hollywood Studios design is like. But then it has attractions that are among my favorite attractions anywhere in the parks, including Tower of Terror. Including my favorite show of all time in any park I've ever been in, the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular.
I've never seen it. Nick! I'm sorry, I haven't.
No, how can you can't spring that on me live? You've
never gone and experienced that.
My heart is breaking.
Well, think of the future joy that I will be able to experience.
It will be too late.
It'll be too late.
Nick, how? Oh my gosh. Okay, we have to start with this. I'm sorry, I was not planning on talking about this because that surprises me. Why?
I don't know. I think it's never been high on the list. I do know part of the nature of that park is if you don't get to Toy Story Land first and get in line for Slinky Dog.
Yeah, which I've never done.
Oh, it's what? That makes sense.
Yeah,
it is. I think Disney did in the spectrum of coasters, you got to have Barnstormer so kids can learn what a coaster is and you can see, oh, they enjoy it. And then Slinky Dog is right in the middle. It's fun for the whole family, so it's not this big thrill, but it is
Right.
fun. And it's a little different with the Slinky bounces and stuff.
Sure.
So we really enjoyed it. My kids enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then that and Toy Story Midway Mania can get, or maybe they dropped the Midway. Toy Story Mania, that can get, or like, that can be a really crowded section because as much as it's a land, it's kind of a
Pretty
corridor.
small. Yeah, it's
So,
a small one. Yeah.
Kind of, we get there, knock those out, get to Runaway Railway, Muppets, Galaxy's Edge, and then they don't do the stunts show all night. It stops.
It does stop way too early.
So we don't prioritize it, and I thought we would go this time.
Yeah.
And we went, we
they're
missed it.
done. Yeah, their last show's at like 4:30 in the afternoon, which I've always been bothered by because I remember getting to see that show at night. It is a gorgeous show at night. The lighting is just so cool, and getting to see the end of that, if you've not experienced it, at the end there's this wonderful explosion that happens at the end of it that is just so cool. And at night, it's just extra awesome. I have not been able to see it at night in probably a decade.
Yeah.
Because they end early. And I understand it's a very costly show to do. Those people are working their butts off. I have a great story to tell about it that I've got to tell briefly once we get to that point. But, wow, you've never... Okay, you have homework, Nick.
All
Next
right.
time you go, you must prioritize the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. It really is a wonderful, wonderful stunt show. They do a great job. It's fun. It's engaging. It's huge. It's epic. It's... really, really cool. So Disney Hollywood Studios. I'll start on this one just because, it's my favorite. I went there twice on this vacation. It was the one park that I did EPCOT more than once as well, which is my sister's favorite park. I also love EPCOT, but it's my sister's favorite. Hollywood Studios, a little bit more my favorite. As soon as you walk in there, again, I feel transported. I'm in the world of movies, and that always makes me happy. Right when you get in there, off to the left, as you're walking into the park, you've got that cool little antiques store that's there, and you go in there and there's the signed photographs by people from the 1920s and 30s, and it's just a really cool... I always like either going in there first thing when I first get into the park just to experience it for a moment and have it be kind of my gateway in, or I do it last thing before I leave. Usually now I do it the last thing before I leave for one very good reason, and Nick, I will give you one guess of why I don't do it first thing.
Because it's too crowded? You got to get somewhere else? I don't know.
I got to get somewhere else. You want to take a guess as to where?
The Indiana Jones stunts. No, sorry. Is it
That's a very good guess because of what I just said, but no.
Rise of the Resistance?
Yes! Rise of the Resistance! Okay. I don't want to sound hyperbolic here, but Rise of the Resistance is a freaking amazing attraction as far as I'm concerned. It is in my top 3.
Yeah.
My top 3 attractions of all time at Disney World. Rise of the Resistance is right on up there. Absolutely fantastic. I have to go there first thing because I know that line is probably not going to get shorter. Sometimes it does a little later, which I discovered. But also it breaks down a good amount.
Yes, this is one of the, I think this was the Disney Dish podcast. One of them runs touringplans.com, and they have the average downtimes for each attraction because they can track that. And it's about 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day it's down.
That's brutal.
That's
brutal.
Not
Yeah,
good.
both days I was there, it was broken down for part of the day.
It's hard, really hard to say, let's wait in this hour and a half, 2 hour wait and hope it doesn't go down. Or if it does,
when I'm 2 minutes away from getting on and I waited 2 hours, right? No, you're absolutely right. And that's why I always head there first. Because I want to get that first ride in. And if you get there right away, the first time I went into that park on this trip, I talked my mother into riding it with me. She's not a thrill. It's not really a thrill ride, but she's pretty. She has low tolerance for anything. But she loved Ratatouille in Epcot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, Rise of the Resistance is the same ride mechanism. It's a different attraction, but if you could handle Ratatouille, you might like Rise of the Resistance. She said, really? I said, yeah. I said, you should give it a try. She was so glad she did. She said, that is really neat. She said, and she's not a huge Star Wars fan like I am.
Yeah.
But she thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyway, so we waited in line. We went right there. And because I was going with my parents, they don't walk very fast. So we're walking. Here's the frustration. Okay, imagine this. Here I am. I'm walking. We get in. It's like we got there at rope drop. And we're going in. And rope drops. And we head in. And my folks are like, they're walking along. And I'm like, all right, let's go, guys. And then whoosh, 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 whoosh. And I'm just counting the people. And I'm like, oh, no, that's another 10 people we're going to be behind. But it was great because my parents agreed to ride it with, and that was worth every bit. But I'll tell you what, even though we didn't rush to get there, which they don't want you running anyway,
Yeah,
please
no running.
do not run. Don't run. If you're going for a big ride, walk briskly. But don't run. It's not worth anybody getting hurt, okay? Just walk. If we all did it, it'd be even. But anyway, we walked there. By the time we got there, there was a line. It said it was a 60-minute wait. For Rise of the Resistance, that's not bad. And I thought, okay, let's give it a shot. We waited 25 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Now, that is something I've discovered. Here's a little tidbit. I don't know if this is going to stay this way. But I'm noticing that more times than not, they are overestimating their wait times, which I think they're doing for one of two reasons. One of them is my optimistic reason, and one is my pessimistic, capitalistic reason. Number one, the optimistic reason. I think they're doing it because it makes you feel good when you didn't wait in line as long. And you're like, oh, wow, they said it was going to be an hour. They're cranking us through. They're working really hard to make this go quicker. That's what I want to believe. What it probably is that they realize they sell an awful lot more of those lightning lanes when you look at that time and it says 2 hours when it's actually maybe... I have no reason to say either way what it is, but I was very happy to see that.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think, which can lean towards the optimistic side, is they do that. They tend to do that for most attractions, whether they have a lightning lane or not. That might help.
That's
boost,
true.
That
That's
might help
true.
boost Genie Plus sales. But I think now that it's back in the day, you didn't know the wait time until you got to the line.
True.
Now you can check at this side. Oh, I'm at one end of the park. Rise is only this. I'm going to book there. Then I get there. It doesn't take long for it to to increase by 15, 30, 45 minutes.
Rise of the queue line.
Yes, Rise of the queue line. And Rise, they might pad it more just because they know it might go down.
That's true. You might be right that they're like, yeah, let's just
There's room
hedge
for
our bets.
optimism, but I think all they need is that one good reason to feel better about, well, we're also going to make more money if we do it.
Absolutely right.
So
No,
I think it's a little bit of both.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you're right. But fortunately, we got there. We got on it in 25 minutes, despite it saying an hour, which was great. My mother loved the ride. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That ride has one of my favorite experiences in all of Disney World. And it has nothing to do with, I don't want to say it has nothing to do with it. It's not part of the ride. It's part of the pre-ride. You probably know what I'm going to say, but it's when you walk off the spaceship that you've been tractor beamed in on, and you walk into that gigantic hangar, and all those stormtroopers are lined up, and the TIE fighter, life size, is up here. I want to have a sleepover in that room, guys. I'm not going to lie. I would bring my little Star Wars, like pajamas and a little Hoth-shaped or a little tauntaun-shaped sleeping bag, and the Force would be with me. Nick, I want to do that so bad. It's so cool. You feel like, oh my God, for the first time, I'm in Star Wars. I'm in Star Wars. It's all around me, and it's such a giant scope that you don't realize all the other people, the humans, the regular people, because it's so big. Whereas, in other places, it's kind of hard sometimes to get away from, I'm on a ride, I'm in an attraction, despite how much they try. But this is such a gigantic scope, and you're looking up and around so much that you're looking over all the humans, and you're just there.
Yeah. It is very impressive. It's an impressive, immersive experience. One of my kids, when we went on it the first time, literally genuinely asked if we were in space.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, I think right before the tractor beam part, because it does such a good job of getting you from one place to the other and just completely immersing you. And they've never seen Star Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, and they were pretty young at the point. I don't know if they would enjoy it yet.
Sure.
But the attraction was a big hit.
So good. It's so good. I love that. Are we in space? Because they do such a good job. Every aspect of that attraction, including the people who are inhabiting the roles of getting you in your lines. We had a great person for ours, and of course they're playing Imperial officers, and we've been captured as rebel scum, and they're treating you like rebel scum. And it was so funny because I was standing in slightly the wrong place, and the guy just came up to me and he stood right in front of me and he just stared at me. And then he looked down and then he stared at me and he said, "What's wrong with this picture?" And he said, "Move it, rebel scum." And I stepped like a half an inch forward and he went, "Yeah, that's better." It was great, Again, the attention to detail and the attention to the immersion aspect of it is what I think Disney does so extraordinarily well. Universal has done a fantastic job with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter of trying to capture that as well. The more immersed you can feel, the more fun it is. And no attraction, with one possible exception, does a better job of making me feel immersed in the experience before I even get on the ride.
Yeah.
Than Rise of the Resistance. I'm not going to spoil what the other one is, but we will talk about it in an upcoming episode, I promise. And it's in my other top 3. I have 3 favorite rides. Haunted Mansion is one, this is another one, and the other one is the third. We'll talk about that because it also pulls you in this incredibly emotional, psychological way into the experience of the ride before you get on the ride. And it's the only ride I've ever been on, the only attraction I've ever been on that brought me to tears the first time I rode it. Wow. I'm not lying. I left it and I had tears streaming down my face because it moved me so much emotionally. And part of it, I didn't realize until I rode it again, was the build-up of what was happening before you even got on the attraction.
Very curious what it is.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it,
Yeah.
but not today. Tune in. Tune in. All right.
Teaser.
So anything else you want to say about Rise of the Resistance, in your experience with it?
Just that my family loved it. I'm so glad. I was nervous in December. I was like, I know this is kind of, we had that list for Magic Kingdom. We have to hit these attractions. Rise was that one, and I was like, with potential crowds and how often it goes down, it might be difficult, but they were able to go on it. This was a day we were able to kind of break up for a little bit here and there. They were actually the ones who got up early to make sure they did Rise on their own to check that box, whereas we knew we were fine getting there, not during the early morning magic hours, and just kind of having more relaxing morning because we did this in Magic Kingdom back to back. But yeah, it is probably, I would have to agree that it's one of the best immersive attractions, and it's a lot of fun. It's not in my top from just, I think if I like Star Wars more, I'd love it even more.
I grew up dreaming of being in Star Wars, and here I am,
But it is
huge.
It's a must do. So
It's
it
a
doesn't,
must-do.
whether you like Star Wars, if you don't even like it at all, I think this attraction is just too much fun, and it kind of blows it all other attractions out of the water with what
just the scope of what it does, and the
be.
fact that it uses all the technologies that Disney's been perfecting over the years. It uses audio animatronics. It uses the ride mechanism that they originally did, I think, for the first time with Universe of Energy. These gigantic. The AT-ATs, those walkers, when you go in that room and there they are, life size, it's amazing. And the use of video that looks almost lifelike, even though it's not 3D, but sometimes it feels 3D. It's amazing. Rise of the Resistance, a must do. So that's what we started with. We did Rise of the Resistance. Now, food-wise, we got to talk about this because this is always the first thing I think of whenever I go into Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios has my favorite restaurant on all of Disney property. So I have to talk about it for a moment. And it is the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. Movie buff. The first time that I ever saw my favorite movie of all time was at a drive-in when I was 11 years old, and that is the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, when it originally came out. I have real nostalgia for movies, old movies, for grade B horror movies and sci-fi movies, and for drive-in theaters. That sci-fi dine-in theater is my favorite from an experiential standpoint. Food-wise, the food's okay. The food's very good. It's nothing great.
Yeah.
But that experience, I always want to eat there. And it is so hard to get into that restaurant. It is so hard. We got on at exactly the 30-day mark for if you're not staying on property that you can start making. Maybe it was 60 days. Maybe it was 60.
60 days if you're on property. I don't know if...
I think it's only 30 if you're not on property. Yeah. We got on like the moment we could in the morning, and we were able to snag a 10:50 lunch reservation, and we took it. Yeah. We didn't look back, man.
When you're in Disney World, it doesn't matter what time it is. You can have whatever meal you want.
That's right. There are no calories in Disney World. There's no time frames. Yeah.
For us, Hollywood Studios, and we'll go more in depth on this in our planning trip, but for the amount of time we were there and the party size that we had, that's where being strategic of which ADRs we were going to go for, and we chose no ADRs there, and we really did rely on snack carts, counter service.
Now ADR, what is for anyone who doesn't
dining
know
reservation?
Okay,
so,
there you go. Yep. That
like
you make ahead of time.
Yeah, waiting for those 30, 60-day windows, and just hoping that you find a time that fits, like you were just saying. It's harder with the group size that we had because you have to break up into different groups, and because we already had 3, we went to EPCOT on my dad's birthday, so that was our priority, and then we did non-park days, we did other dining reservations.
And that's one of the differences too in our styles of vacations, partially out of necessity, is we in every park we have a advanced dining reservation location that we always go for. Liberty Tree at Disney Hollywood, or at Magic Kingdom, as we talked about in our last episode. In this one, it's the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. I'll reveal what our EPCOT one is. And actually, the only one we don't have is Animal Kingdom. We do not have a must for the Animal Kingdom. So I will say the one that we have done before, which is Yak and Yeti. Nice restaurant. I love the ambiance of it, and I like Chinese food anyway, and so forth. So it's they've got good Asian food there. But we do those sit downs, and we'll take our time. When we do Sci-Fi Dine-In, we can always tell that we're staying longer than we should when the movies that are playing recycle. Because they did a brilliant job in the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. I think I timed it out, and I think it's right around 45, 46 minutes, something like that, of the reel that they're playing. And I think they determined that is roughly the amount of time it will take people to typically eat their meal, get their check, because they serve pretty quickly, and then we can get them out of here so we can get more people in here. So let's repeat it so that they know, we already saw this. Okay, we're not missing anything else, so that they don't stick around in case there was something else goofy that was going to be happening on that screen. A must-do. Again, I can't recommend it highly enough. If you are able to get into Disney Hollywood Studios and do the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater, I recommend it very highly. It's an experience that truly, there is nothing else like it anywhere in the world. It is a completely unique dining experience.
Yeah, that was on the list, but that was, I think, my 4th option, and we didn't even try. But that was where I would have picked for there too, because I've never been there, and the one that intrigues me the most. I really do want to do Brown Derby because I do like that old Hollywood feel.
I did Brown Derby once, just for that reason.
But I'm also waiting for either a couple's trip or or the kids are older now. But,
because it is an expense. Brown Derby is a pricey meal.
And it doesn't seem worth it to get chicken fingers there. So.
Not really. Probably not.
If they even serve that there. I don't
know. What other things did you do in Disney Hollywood Studios that were of interest and will be of interest to our viewers?
So we broke up to do the diehard Star Wars fans. They got, I don't know if this is all the time or just on really busy days, but the Star Wars fans wanted to experience the cantina. So you have to get a reservation in park within a certain, you can't walk too far away. You can leave Galaxy's Edge, but not too far, and wait for your reservation to come up. And I think they don't have much. It's a place to have a drink. They don't want you to stay long to get people through, because I think some fans would maybe never leave.
Oh, it is, again, as a Star Wars fan, walking in that cantina for the first time. I brought my mother into it for the first time this time. She had never been in there. And she saw Star Wars, very quickly, 60 seconds. my experience seeing Star Wars, I am old enough to have seen Star Wars in theaters for the first time when it came out originally in 1977. I would have been, all right, well, you're going to be able to do the math, but I was 8 years old. All right, at that point. My parents weren't sure. They had heard this movie was coming. They weren't sure whether it would be appropriate for an 8-year-old. So they went the night before to see Star Wars, just my parents. They came home and immediately said, we're taking Julian to see Star Wars tomorrow night because he's going to freak out and love it. So they took me the next night to see Star Wars. So this is where my mom's fond memories of Star Wars are. She doesn't necessarily love the movie, but she loved the experience that I had with it. They watched me watching Star Wars because they had seen it the night before. So they sat there and they kind of just watched me. And they said that my face through that entire movie almost never went away from,
Wow. That's amazing.
like I was just transfixed. I couldn't take. And that truly is the birth of, I think, my love for movies, was that first experience seeing Star Wars and realizing for the first time that movies were made, that movies didn't just magically appear on the screen in front of me, that, oh, people had to write this. Wait, they had to like get a camera. Somebody composed that music. That didn't just appear out of nowhere. So I became obsessed with learning how movies are made. Anyway, that's my experience. My mother's experience is knowing what that movie has meant to me over the years. So I brought her into the cantina for the first time. They let us walk in just to look at it.
So maybe that, nice.
We said, hey, we're not staying, but I really want my mom to see it. Is it okay if we just walk in for a second? And she said, well, okay, it's really busy in there, but come with me. And she escorted us in and brought us up against, one of the walls, and she said, here it is. And my mom looked at it and she said, this is amazing. And I said, Mom, you have no idea. You probably don't remember how much this really looks like the cantina on, granted, it's a different cantina thematically or canonically, but it looks so much like the cantina on Tatooine. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's a chain cantina.
It's a chain it's the Applebee's of Star Wars. Why is that not on the poster for batuu, right? The Applebee's of Star Wars.
Yeah. So my family did that the half of us did that while the rest of us went to Muppets and we ate some rat pizza. And then, man, the Muppet Vision 3D holds up. It is entertaining.
It does.
It seems like it should be, why are we wearing these glasses and doing this 3D thing? But it is, and it's amazing. The transformation of that theater gets completely destroyed. Sweetums comes out.
I love it.
The Statler and Waldorf are the best.
I know.
Love it.
It's not a Goofy mask. Sorry, lady.
And it's meta.
It's so classic.
We'd leave, but we're bolted down. It's great.
It is. I'm there with you. Every time we go there, I'm so pleased to see that is still there. Because I'm pretty sure if they don't take it, I think they've probably had conversations about taking it out, replacing it with something else Muppets. But, it's so perfect. It's my favorite Muppet experience of all time. And I'm not a massive Muppet fan, but I watched The Muppet Show, the original Muppet Show. I watched Muppet Christmas Carol and Why Are There So Many songs? The Muppet Movie,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And even some of the more recent ones. And I got to say, their recent Muppet stuff, I'm not a fan. But that was the last thing that I remember where it felt like the genuine, real Muppets. And it's probably because Jim Henson was still around.
Jim Henson directed that.
Yes.
If they get rid of it, there will be a huge...
It'll be a travesty. As well as Brian Henson, his son, has done. He's done a wonderful job. He really has.
But it's also part of the Brian Henson is Henson Studios, but Disney owns certain characters. So I think that's where they struggle to bring the Muppets back. There's some projects that I've really enjoyed that get closer to it. Because Brian Henson did Muppet Christmas Carol. So
that's true. He did. And that is quite good. That is quite good.
But and my kids love, they did a new Muppet Babies that is made by people who grew up loving the Muppets.
Nice.
And there's some great Easter eggs, and that's an actual, if you have kids, because it is for kids, but that is one I really actually love watching with my kids is Muppet Babies on Disney Plus with them.
I love it.
I do want a Disney or Muppets expansion over there. I don't want them to get rid of Muppets 3D. I want one of the original attractions that they did not do. Well, I think you might love this. The Great Muppet Movie Ride. And it was Muppet versions of classic movies.
Wait, I've never heard of this. What was
That
this
was-
something they were actually entertaining doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
I must have this.
The
Bob Iger, I know you're watching this.
So I would love for them to bring that into it because that's the conceit of that section of the park, which
Yes.
is why it fits so well
Yes.
with Hollywood or MGM Studios. This is where the Muppets make the Muppet Studios was where the Muppets Vision 3D is, but this is supposed to be where they're making their movies too and their work. So it worked really well, and that I think
That would have been
that
so
would have been
cool to see Miss
amazing.
Piggy in the Sigourney Weaver alien moment of
my God.
just looking like this with the alien behind her, and the alien behind her is like Gonzo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to have this. I want this
Yes.
so much.
That's the expansion I want. I think Muppets. What I'm trying to think. There was something recently that I think did really well.
Yeah,
I think people really like the Muppet
I do too.
Haunted Mansion
Yes.
thing that they did,
Yes.
and I loved the Electric Mayhem show. I thought that was amazing.
I know. There's so much.
I think
that would be
they
a
need to
huge
tap
draw.
into
I think if
Muppets.
they did that Muppets, the Great Muppet Ride or whatever you call it.
I don't know
that-
what the footprint on that section of the park is for expansion. So
But it seems like you wouldn't even have to have it be full size then if it's the Muppets. So maybe they could
Yeah,
fit it.
that's true.
I don't know. You could make it a walkthrough even, in some way and still have. But anyone that knows the Great Movie Ride would be like, oh, I know exactly what this is. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, get on that, Disney Imagineers. I love it. All right. So so Muppet Vision. We did Muppet Vision, of course. We always do Muppet Vision. All four of us are gigantic fans. We love it every time. I could recite every word of that from beginning to end. And I enjoy it just as much every single time I see it. I just thoroughly engaged. Absolutely love it. Sticking on that end of the park, so Muppet Vision's over there. We got, of course, Star Wars Land. I did get to do Smuggler's Run. I did that when I was in there by myself. That would be later in the day. My parents left for the day. My sister had decided to do EPCOT that day instead for part of the day, so she park hopped. And I stayed in Disney Hollywood Studios and did about the second half of the day all by myself, which means I got to do whatever I wanted, which is one of the great things about adulting on your own at Disney World is you can go wherever you want, do whatever you want. I spent a lot of time in Batuu, in Galaxy's Edge, and I got to ride Smuggler's Run because for some reason that day, they don't have it every day, they had a single rider's line.
Oh, wow.
For Smuggler's Run.
interesting.
I waited exactly 4.5 minutes to get on Smuggler's Run, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
You smuggled yourself in
I
there.
I did. And you know what? My favorite part of that ride is just being on the frickin' Millennium Falcon. There's just, when you walk in there and you see the chessboard there, and then you get into the cockpit and it feels like the Millennium Falcon, even though there's 6 seats and I think there's only 4 in the actual Millennium Falcon. But it doesn't matter. It's so cool. And it's a fun ride. It's not
fun,
it's not an amazing ride because of the interactivity of it, and you kind of all having to work together. They gamified it a little bit. But every time I'm in it, I'm like, I feel like I'm on the Millennium Falcon. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Did you guys get to ride that one too?
We did get to ride that one, and because its reputation for not being amazing, and maybe that just compares into to Rise because it does
Right.
not stand up to Rise, but they can all be that. I had never gone on it before until this trip, but we really did enjoy it. It does remind me a little bit, except it doesn't make you as sick as Mission Space.
Yeah.
Except there's a little bit more to your interactions.
Yeah,
which
and
is
it's a little
nice.
bit like Star Tours too
Yeah,
in that way of just the simulator kind of aspect
Yeah.
to it. Yeah. Which Star Tours?
Yes,
a ride that since they did the update that they did, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, whenever they did that big update. That ride is kick butt. I'm sorry, it is. I always enjoyed it, but when they made it with the multiple different branching storylines, and they brought in the prequels, the original trilogy, and the recent trilogy aspects to it, it's a really great ride. So here's the crazy thing: I have an entire Star Tours Starcraft completely to myself. Check it out.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you ride that one as well?
We did get to ride that one.
The
That was
kiddos
fun.
like that one?
Mm-hmm. My
Yeah.
niece was the one that they were looking for. They put the
Oh,
person
that's
there.
awesome.
So
She was the traitor or the spy.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
so
spy.
that was fun. I think they just announced they're going to add some more scenes.
Oh.
Because they want Mandalorian and Andor.
Oh,
and,
sure, of course. Oh, their Disney Plus series. And,
Yeah.
That's
So
cool. That
that'll-
makes sense, and that's easy to do. I mean,
it
that's
took
a
them so
relatively
long to
easy
do
addition.
an update, and then
Yeah.
now it feels like, okay, we know how to do this.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's
people
so
like
much
it.
easier because they don't have to lay new track. They don't have to create new animatronics. They just get to do this digital film, and then they have to just reprogram the simulator.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And that also tells me that they plan on keeping that around. I don't know why they would get rid of it, other than, well, we have Galaxy's Edge over here, and then we have another Star Wars thing. So
It's so sad that you know they had the conversations. Do we move Star Tours? Mm-hmm. And they were like, that's a pain in the butt. I mean, that's massive. And they're like, no, it's close enough. It's close enough to. And technically, I guess they could say that Star Tours, the company, is not on Batuu.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's closer to Muppets.
yeah. Yeah, which Muppets? I never realized Muppets make sense with
Pigs
Star
in
Wars.
space.
Oh, that's the re-theme for the.
The crossover.
That's what I want that hotel experience to be.
Pigs in Space Hotel. I would go to that. So I'm thinking of a couple of other the highlight. We got to talk about, and then anything else that you want to talk about too, but I got to talk about the major highlight for me of my Disney Hollywood Studios experience was big shock. It has to do with Indiana Jones stunt show. So every time I'm there, I try to catch the Indiana Jones stunt show twice because I love it so much. I try to catch it once an early show, and then I try to catch the late show if I can. Because frankly, you can get through all of the rides at Disney Hollywood Studios, and it doesn't take a whole ton of time. You know, you can get through them if you're smart, and if there's certain ones that you don't need to ride or that you want to do, lightning lane for or something like that, which I just don't do. I managed to get to see it twice. The first time was with my parents and my sister, and the show got done, and the stunt show gets done, and a couple of the cast members came up, to the edge of the audience so people could come down and have their photographs taken with Indiana Jones and with Marion and a couple of one of the other cast members that plays one of the film crew, like the director. And we came down there and started talking to the woman that played the director of the show, the Indiana Jones crew. Because the basic premise of it, if for anyone who doesn't know, is it's like you're there watching an Indiana Jones movie being made. So they have camera crews there, and they're doing the stunt show. It's the second unit of the movie being made where they do all the stunts. So they have people that are playing the camera crew and all that stuff. Well, the woman that plays the director was sitting down there talking to a few people. We came down and she, said, "Oh, thanks for coming to the show." She was very nice. Her name is Mindy. If you ever get down there, go see the Indiana Jones stunt show because there's a good chance Mindy will be in it. She's been doing that show for, I thought she said like 20 years. Wow. And I remember seeing her. I told her, I said, "I've seen you. Like almost every time I come see this, you're in it." And she said, "Yeah, I'm here a lot." And I said, "Well, I always love seeing, and she was so nice. She talked to us, I kid you not, for 20 minutes.
Wow.
And this was between shows. Everyone else was gone. Like the theater had cleared out. Everyone's gone. She, the woman that played Marion, and the guy that played Indy stayed and talked to us for 20 minutes because we had all sorts of technical questions. And I said, "I've seen this show so many times. I'm a filmmaker. I love this stuff. Can I ask you some questions?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, bring them." And we asked them some questions that I'm pretty sure that they had not been asked before. And they were so forthcoming with information. Nice. They loved talking about this stuff. Discovered that the guy that plays Indy met his current wife doing this show when she would play one of the thugs in the show. Not Marion. She would play one of the thugs that's trying to kill Indy and Marion. And he told us this great story. He said at one point, "This is why I married this woman. I love her so much." He said, "One show we're doing, she comes running after me. I'm running to the ladders to climb up the ladders in this one part of the scene. And she's running after me with this club. And as she's running, no one can hear this because she doesn't have a mic on. She's running after me and she's going, 'Who is she? Who is she?' About Marion," because she's his girlfriend at that point. And I'm like, this is so brilliant. But anyway, That was a great thing. But they shared this wonderful thing that I had never noticed in all the times I had seen this show. My sister asked her, she said, "What happens?" There's a point where the airplane spins around in the Indiana Jones stunt show at the end of the thing. And it's recreating a fight scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark where Indy gets into a fight with a German mechanic, and the German mechanic at the end of that scene gets chopped up by the propeller of the airplane. Well, they recreate that scene in a Disney way where you don't see lots of blood or anything like that. But it's made to look like he gets chopped up by the propeller by falling through a trap door as that propeller comes around. Really kind of cool. You know, you can tell he drops down in a thing. They put some smoke up so it kind of hides it. But it's really kind of cool. Well, my sister asked, you know, does that ever not work? You know, what's the contingency plan if that trap door doesn't open? And Minnie said, oh, yeah. She said, you want to see something? We're like, yeah. And she said, come around here. And she brought us around like slightly onto the stage. And there's this giant traffic signal with just a red and a green light on it. And the lights are like this big. And she said, when they are doing that sequence, both the guy playing Indy and the guy playing the German mechanic are keeping their eye on that stop and go sign light. Because if anything goes wrong with the mechanics, anything goes wrong that the crew can discover, that there's something that's going to cause that to be a problem, that light changes from green to red. And instantly they change the fight to take it away from the plane. And we said, really? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. And she said, it doesn't happen very often, but that's the contingency plan. And if it ever does happen, there's a horn that goes off, but it's way near the back of the stage. So really only they hear it, but sometimes it'll carry through because there's so much other noise going on. But they hear this, and that light changes to red, and they know that they have to change the end of the fight. And the way they change the end of the fight is Indy and the German mechanic run away. Indy tries to run away from the plane. The German mechanic chases him and grabs him. But just before he grabs him, Indy picks up a wrench from the ground, turns around, and knocks him out with it. And that's how they end the fight. And I'm like, what wrench? And she said, you've never noticed the wrench? And I said, no. And she said, next time you watch the show, look for a wrench. And she said, but it'll be right in the center of the stage. And it's big. It's a wrench about this big that one of the mechanics uses to try to fix a tire on one of the things, and then he leaves it when he drives the Jeep away. So that is always there for that fight if they ever chase fight. It was so cool. And like these were the tidbits that they were giving us. And they were talking about how many more women are in the show now, which was really cool to see, playing all different roles, playing the thugs and stuff. And it was so great seeing these powerhouse women kicking butt. It was so cool. Anyway, that was my favorite experience, I think, probably of the entire trip.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
It was like a little mini backstage tour. But all I could think of is these three people. I mean, this is Indy and Marion, the stars of the show. They should be back relaxing, man. And they're sitting here talking with a family of four. No one else around. Wow. And they're engaging. They talked about both the guy that played Indy and the woman that played Mary. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on here. But this is so cool.
No, this is a great story.
This was so cool. They talked about how, in addition, I said, well, what other things do you do any other things other than the Indiana Jones stunt show? And they said, well, not here, but we are both stunt people in film. And they said, we spend a lot of time going back and forth between Orlando and Atlanta shooting films for Marvel.
Wow.
And they're like, they're professional. I mean, these are professional stunt people that do film work as well. And I was like, this is so freaking cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really neat.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah,
so I guess I should see the Indiana Jones stunt show.
You might. You think you might want to catch it. It is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so any other things of note from your experience there this trip?
I didn't get to go on one of my favorite rides, and I'm regretting it. In that park.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go on Rock and Roller Coaster.
I didn't.
And
either.
I don't know how long
it was broken, or not broken down. They got it closed for renovation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't closed for this renovation. It was closed that day because then it went down. Or because it was opened earlier, because my family went in the morning.
See, at least we knew going into it was going to be closed.
So yeah.
I love that ride so much.
I'm getting a little nervous because I don't know what they're going to do because this is supposedly a pretty long.
I've heard mixed things about whether they're retheming it from Aerosmith. The last thing I heard was no. But I don't know what the credible sources are, because I've also heard that Steven Tyler's had a little bit of negative things that have come out about situations he's had with fans and things like that are less than Disney-esque.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been talk of that, but I hope they don't, because I love the Aerosmith theme of that. Loving an elevator while you're riding that thing. It's just the perfect song for a roller coaster.
Yes, I really do enjoy it. But it went down before for a while, but it was a short one that, I don't know. It was like they weren't able to fix what they needed to. So hopefully everything goes well and that can still be there. And then I still haven't seen the new parts of Fantasmic since they've updated it. We didn't get to go to that while we were there.
Well, that's a good point. I don't watch Fantasmic.
Yeah, that makes
because I
sense.
take advantage of the fact that everyone in the park goes there. So I go ride Tower of Terror, which I did because all day long. And I'm going to turn it back to you. I don't want to steal the thunder here, but you brought up Fantasmic, and I'm like, that is the time when I go on the rides you can't get on, because I'll tell you, because they do 2 shows a night, and it's like 5,000 people per show or something like that. It's insane. It sucks the people out of that.
100%.
The wait for Tower of Terror had not dropped below 90 minutes. It was sometimes upwards of 130 minutes. I'm like, I'm not going to wait for that. I love that ride, but I'm not going to wait that long. We had a busy time. I was surprised. Then Fantasmic happened. I'm on the other end of the park. I'm in Batuu. I'm in Galaxy's Edge. Other end of the frickin' park, as far away from it as you can get. But I open my app, and it says 45. It says 45 minutes. Oh. And I thought, ooh, Fantasmic just started. I'll bet if I start walking now, by the time I get there, it'll be 15 or 20 minutes. And it was. I got there. It said 20 minutes, and it was a 15-minute wait for Tower of Terror.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's why I love Fantasmic. Not so much for the show, but for it clears everybody out. It is a good show, though.
Yeah,
it is a good show.
It wasn't open the last trip, so this trip we tried to, but we didn't rush to get there. By the time we got there, they said we're full. That's how busy it was.
Fantasmic was full?
Yes. But it worked to our benefit because we were able to ride Tower of Terror, and then we did Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway a second time, which
there you go.
That is one of my favorite attractions, and then my kids also love it. So
nice.
That's great. The other thing we did do is we were able to sit and enjoy. I still love the projection mapping that they do in the park. So it's called Sunset Seasons Greetings on Tower of Terror. So that's pretty impressive, and I never got to watch that. And the fake snow, the Snope comes down.
That is very cool.
So that was nice.
Going during the holidays is such a magical thing. It is my absolute favorite time of year to be at the Disney parks, because they pull out all the stops.
Have you ever stayed? Then we went to it was like, you didn't get into Fantasmic, but we're gonna do a projection show now on the Chinese Theater.
Yes.
And it's the Salute. They do
2 shows, like
two different animation and movies.
And movies, yeah.
And we did the animation one, which was right up our alley. Even though I would have loved the other one, but that was great. We loved that. We just ate popcorn and ice cream and sat there and watched that. And that was just the 5 of us, because we came later that day, so everyone else left, and that's kind of how we ended our day, was watching that. So that was perfect.
That's a great end to the day, and the end to my day, to kind of wrap things up a little bit here. God, there's so much. There's so much. That's what strikes me about, and why we're doing this program. Why there are so many people that do programs about Disney, right, is because the details. There's so much detail in what Disney does that you can go there, you can have been there dozens of times and see new things every time you're there. And you're not even trying to seek them out. You just notice them. Like, you go around this corner and you see this little piece of this little something that nobody ever probably even takes a second to look at. And you're like, look at the detail they put into this little thing that means nothing, that any other theme park would have probably said, we don't need to spend $10,000 on that little area. We could spend $1,000. And let's put that other 9 somewhere. No, Disney says, no, someone's going to notice that, and they're going to appreciate that.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I love about all of the parks, is they get the details so well. And again, Universal did that with Harry Potter. Yeah, if you're a Potterite, a Harryite, what?
Pothead.
Pothead.
Is that not what they're called?
Potterheads.
Oh, Potterheads.
They're Potterheads. Okay. Although some of them might be potheads.
There could be
and that's okay. You know, that's all right if it makes the wizarding world a little bit more enjoyable for you. Hey, you know what? That's all right. But no, I'm not a huge Potter fan.
Yeah, neither am I.
But I will even admit, being at that world, I was like, dang, Universal,
They
all
did
right,
it.
you know what? In some ways, they out Disney, which is why Disney did Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we would have had Galaxy's Edge if there had not been Potterland.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So anyway, to wrap up the day, because I was by myself, I stayed until the very last minute because one of my other favorite things to do, here's my little secret. Maybe this is kind of pathetic, I don't know. But one of my favorite things to do at Disney Hollywood Studios, again, as Fantasmic is clearing people out, as the park is closing, and so people get out of Fantasmic and they just decide to leave. There's not much else to do. The lines are going to, So what I love to do is I love to go back to the Muppet area, back by Mama Melrose, back by Rizzo's, or what used to be Planet Pizza, which I kind of miss it being Planet Pizza. I do, but now I understand why it's not there now because they got Toy Story Land. Mm-hmm. But I love going back there because there's no one there. It is so rare to be in a Disney park and be able to find an area where there's no people, and it's so weird. Again, this is something that most people would say, you're wasting time in a park when you could be riding any number of rides. You're wasting time spending time where there's no people. Yeah, because it's just magical. It's quiet. It's beautiful. You might get an occasional person that had a late reservation at Mama Melrose that's walking by. But for the most part, there's no one there. I love it. That's how I try to end every day that I'm at Disney Hollywood Studios if I can make it happen.
That's a nice little tradition because I've really probably only had 2 moments like that. And definitely not in this last trip. That I think would have been almost impossible. I want to close down a park one day, and I have not had the opportunity. You got little kids that need to go to bed.
That's hard.
So maybe the next time it's just me and Sarah.
Yeah, when you can do it and you can find those little areas. I've got another little area in the Magic Kingdom that I love that's back by the Pirates. That's kind of this little just area on the way around to Frontierland, kind of, that tends to not have very many people back there. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
Later in the day, it gets kind of quiet back there. I just kind of like that. It's especially when it's been really busy and you're just like, I'm peopled out a little bit, but magic. All right. Any other things you want to share about Disney Hollywood Studios from this trip?
No, I think we covered it.
I think we did. We at least covered a good chunk of it. I mean, I didn't ride Mickey's Runaway Railway. I like the ride. It's not my favorite. It's not a must for me. Mm-hmm. If the line's not terribly long, I'll ride it. But that one almost always has a pretty long line because it's new. It's new, and it's Mickey. It took them this long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first Mickey Mouse ride. Well, Philharmagic. I guess you could count Mickey's Philharmagic,
even though it's like Mickey's there, but it's Donald's show.
It's Donald's show. It really is.
It's Donald's Harmagic.
It took them this long to make a Mickey Mouse attraction.
Yeah,
it's amazing. All right. Well, with that, we covered a whole bunch of stuff here. Again, what we were going to try and do in one episode, we've broken into 2. We've still got 2 other parks. We got Disney Springs. We got a lot of things to cover about this last trip. And then we're going to talk about the planning that goes into doing a trip and how differing it is for my type of planning versus Nick's type of planning, and so forth. So great things coming. Anything you want to say to the people that are watching before we wrap up?
Thank you so much for joining us. If you loved this chat, definitely check out our Magic Kingdom chat. That was a lot of fun. And then I'm real excited to talk about, I'll say it, EPCOT. I can't wait to talk about EPCOT.
EPCOT, your favorite. Yep, that's right. And if you enjoyed this at all today, we thank you for watching, especially if you watched through all this. I hope it's as exciting for you. Obviously, it's fun for us talking about it. I hope you're getting some information or nostalgic love, or you're hearing us talk about experiences and you're going, I had an experience like that. If you're enjoying that at all, I recommend you subscribe to this channel, because this is what this podcast is going to be. That's what this channel is going to be all about. So we hope that you'll come back and that you'll comment on this. We want to have a discussion with you, not just at you. All right. So feel free to comment and share this with anyone else that you feel might be a Disney fan as much as you are, as much as we are, or even if you think they might get there if they just understood what's so cool about Disney. It's our honor to be here with you and to bring this to you. And on behalf of the 2 of us, I am Jolly Julian, and this is
Grim Grinning Nick.
And we will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. That was a terrible Mickey Mouse. That was supposed to be Mickey.
Was it?
That was
Mickey.
Goofy. I think that was...
Oh.
It was When my Mickey sounds more like, I'm sorry about that, Mickey. Cut this thing.
Too
It's just
long.
going downhill.